Keep Track Week, day 6. How many hands did I win in 10 hours? And in full disclosure, this was the same day I counted the chops. It was just 2 things that were easy to count at the same time. So if you remember, I played exactly 10 hours. How many hands do you think I won? That's all the time you had to guess. Me walking from there to here. 13 and a half hands in 10 hours. And I know what you're thinking. Rice, 13 and a half. Where's the half? Well, simple. Me and a guy both had 10-7. We had the exact same hand. We got to showdown, so that's the half. So take away that. And I had 13 wins. Only 1 was raised pre-flop and everyone folded. The other 12, we at least got to a flop. I didn't even plan on keeping track of that, but I realized the night was almost over and I hadn't raised and won it pre-flop. The one hand that did end pre-flop that I won, it was right at the end. So I just kind of realized as I was playing that it hadn't happened yet. That's going to be something interesting to compare to Vegas, because I expect in Vegas a lot of hands I'll raise pre and everyone folds, just because it's a bit of a tighter game out there. But 12 hands, we got to at least a flop of the lucky 13 that I won total. And yeah, last year in Oklahoma, I only won 7. That's pretty low, especially for that player pool. Just things weren't going great for me, I guess, in Oklahoma. But 12, does that sound like a lot? Not that much. I don't think a lot of people keep track of this while they're playing. I know my style, I win a small number of large hands. So I didn't expect the number to be that big. Last year's 7 in 10 hours in Oklahoma was pretty small. But this year's 12 makes a little more sense. I always thought it was somewhere between 1 and 2 an hour. 13, 12 that we saw a flop. 13 total, 13 and a half really total. Yeah, I always thought it was somewhere between 1 and 2, so that would put me between 10 and 20 in a 10-hour session. But the biggest one, let's turn that into a hand history. They're filming me while I'm filming myself. Perfect. And this hand I played, this is actually one of the best ways I combat a very aggressive player, especially out of position. I raised pre-flop under the gun with queens to $12, won 3, no straddle, and the player immediately on my left re-raised to $30. So right now you need to form an idea of what you're going to do all hand. Way too strong. I mean, we're not folding. It's between call and raise. I don't see a lot of merits to re-raising. He could have plenty worse, but is he going to call my 4-bet with those worse hands? That's debatable. I want to keep his worst hands in. There's nothing I can do if he has kings or aces, but I need to keep all of his worst 3-betting hands in. I don't want to give him an opportunity to fold at any point. So I'm going to let him hang himself, and I'm going to check call the entire way, especially on really good runouts. That's my plan right now before I even call the 3-bet pre-flop on how to play this hand from now until all in whenever it happens. So I call, and the flop is 10-5 deuce, rainbow, very good flop. I check, and he bets $40. And the plan is still the same. I don't want to fold out. I mean, jacks isn't folding. I don't want to fold out hands like ace king. I don't want to fold out hands way worse. You might play in a game where like re-raising an under the gun player, the worst hand they have is ace king. There could be a lot worse hands in Council Bluffs. I don't want to fold out hands, some of which might not even have an overcard on me. So I need to keep him in. I don't want to help him out and give him the opportunity to fold his the worst hands he can possibly have here. So I just call. I call. The turn is another 10, which is a little bit of an interesting card. I check, and he goes all in. I actually paused for a little bit because if he's a very high level thinking player, what does this all in accomplish if he has nothing? Like, what hands is he trying to get me to fold? He's not getting me to fold over pairs. Of course he's not getting me to fold any hand that has a 10 in it. So on that level, it's a little disconcerting, because what is he trying to get me to fold on that board? It's not a really good turn card for him to continue with absolute air and trying to get me to fold something, but you can't think that your opponents are really thinking players. Sometimes it's just raw aggression, and not many thoughts at all, or the thoughts that exist aren't very cogent thoughts. So I'm not folding. I call all in, not that it was for that much more. He started the hand with about 225, I had him covered. And the river is a brick, nothing changes. He shows ace queen, and I win with my pair of queens. So it might not look like much. I had an overpair. I had queens, there was a 10 high board, there was a 3-bet pot. The guy only had 225 to start the hand. Yeah, just get all in. It might not look like much to the outside observer or to the casual observer, but I got all in. He had ace queen on 10, 5, deuce, 10. There's not a lot of other ways to play the hand where I get every single chip he had. If I re-raise pre, he probably calls pre, but then folds the flop when he airballs. If I check raise the flop, he probably folds, you know, when I raise him. If I just shove all in first to go on the turn, he folds his ace high. So it was a very specific line I had to take to keep the absolute worst part of his 3-bet range in, to not give him an opportunity to fold, and to win the maximum. We got all in, I won, couldn't possibly win anymore. So all the thought was pre-flop. I put a game plan together pre-flop, and that's one of the best ways I play against this player pool, when it's very aggressive. You're gonna lose to their best hands. You know, I have queens, and I'm pretty much just never folding. If he happens to have kings, so be it, I lose. I have to keep his worst hands in somehow, and I put that thinking together pre-flop, and it executed very well. So that's the end of Keep Track Weekday 6. One more day left, and tomorrow's is actually very interesting. It's very difficult to count while you're playing. There's actually a bunch of things I'm going to count, and this will be a very interesting one to compare to what goes on in Vegas in a month or two when I do this again also. So stay tuned for tomorrow.